We're back with another week of high school sports, and how was your Thanksgiving?
It was very nice.
Yeah?
Kind of peaceful, a little
Lots of
family
turkey?
over, and we're more of a ham family this year.
Oh,
That
a
was
ham family.
I go with what everybody else wants. I'm
Sure.
the easygoing one, and
right.
they wanted to do ham, and that was just fine with me.
Okay.
Pumpkin pie, that was the big thing.
That's always the big thing. All right. Well, we're going to talk first wrestling, right?
We are going to talk a little wrestling. The Edmonds-Woodway Invitational took place over the weekend, and this is a big one. We've had Coach Alfie on here just recently talking about that a little bit. 33 different schools represented, some of the top wrestling programs in the area. At Edmonds-Woodway, the boys took second place overall in the points, but we thought we'd give a few shout-outs to the individuals, and we could go on and on with a huge list of Edmonds-Woodway wrestlers, so I pretty much kept it to the ones that finished in the top three in their weight classes. And we're going to start off with the only one that actually won his weight class, and for that, he gets a shirt. It is Grayson Lecomte, 132-pound champion of the Edmonds-Woodway Invitational. Grayson, we've got a Action Jackson Plumbing Player of the Week shirt for you, so that will be coming your way. Congratulations. I lied. We're going to give out one fourth place name, too. Grayson's brother, Reese Lecomte, in the 106 category, took fourth place. Other wrestlers we want to mention from over the weekend, from Edmonds-Woodway, Baylor Dinkinger took second place in the 113-pound classification. Ethan Wynn took third place in the 106-pound, and Howie Hare took third place in the 138-pound. So there we go, our first wrestling results of the 2018-2019 school year.
We'll probably be hearing some of those names over and over again, as we always do.
We will, and we'll be talking more Edmonds-Woodway over and over again, as we
Yeah.
always do. One solid program.
Okay. Well, and now we need to move on to my favorite sport, of course, basketball.
Basketball, and we're gonna stick with Edmonds-Woodway here.
Okay.
We've been doing basketball previews for the past couple of weeks, and two very good programs that we've come to know and love in this area are the Warriors boys and girls basketball teams. We know and love them because we like the coaches so much. So we had them in studio talking about their seasons and what we can expect from them. Here's the interview we did with John Rasmussen, the girls basketball coach at Edmonds-Woodway, and Robert Brown, the boys basketball coach. We are talking basketball preview this week, and with us right now, the two head coaches for the Edmonds-Woodway Warriors programs. The girls coach, John Rasmussen, to my right, and then Robert Brown over there, the boys basketball coach on the outside of the table here. And guys, thanks for being here first and foremost. Two programs that we always enjoy talking about, two teams that have had a lot of success over the last few years. Two teams that got wins to start their season, so that's always a nice way to get things rolling. But before we talk about this year, I kind of want to hear about what you guys do in the offseason, because we always ask coaches about what they're up to in November, December, January, February, and you guys are pretty much just swarmed with basketball. It's practices, it's games, it's getting the kids into the gym to go through workouts. Do you guys do anything fun just to lead up to the basketball season, John, or what? Are you just a basketball gym rat and always at it?
Well, you can see me in the off season. I'll try to go watch the girls in AAU playing, and when I'm not doing that, I'm sure you'll find me on a golf course somewhere, probably 2 times a week if I can. So I'll relax that way, and then I have to catch up on my other job, so I can do that. So, I stay really busy, but that's more or less what I'm doing in the off season.
So it's good that a basketball coach has a golf habit, because January and February, you really don't want to be out on the courses anyway in the Pacific Northwest.
I was out there this morning, so I
Okay,
battled
so
it.
you made it work. Okay, do what you can when you can.
Exactly.
Robert, what about you? What are you doing when you're not out there coaching basketball this time of year?
I'm usually traveling a lot. I mean, we were just talking about it. So our first trip after basketball is more basketball. I go down to Vegas every year from the first weekend of March Madness. I'm usually July. I'm in Vegas again, right around Summer League time and NBA Summer League time and AAU time. And then I usually take one trip in the fall. We take with the wife right before this starts kicking off again. So it's usually a lot of traveling, spending time with my wife, trying to get reacquainted, because these 3-4 months go to the kids and to the programs, though.
And it's definitely all about the programs right now, as you guys are in the thick of things. As far as the season thus far, let's talk about these first couple of games. Robert, we'll start with you on this one. You've got one game under your belt so far, and it was an interesting one. You guys were down by 11 at halftime to Juanita, and I don't know what you did or said at halftime, but you're either the coach of the year at this point, or maybe the guys just started playing finally, because you guys won by 14.
People ask me about my halftime coach. I have one other game, a Shorecrest game that happened. We're down 16 and don't win them by 16. But I didn't say anything earth-shattering. The kids just weren't playing hard enough. We got a lot of kids who were inexperienced on the varsity level, kids who didn't play last year because they focused on baseball, some younger guys who were moving forward and getting more varsity experience. And I always tell the kids, you guys are friends in practice, but you don't really know how hard it is to win varsity basketball games. And they have to just play harder. And when they realized that it wasn't about the people in the stands, it was about how hard they're going to play together, that's when they really locked in and played some real good defense in the second half, and that led to the win, because we are definitely all about playing defense, and the rest of it will fall into place.
Well, and too many games like that will put gray hairs on your head, but I've got to think early on in the season, it's almost a blessing in disguise, right? I mean, here you are, non-conference game. You did get the victory ultimately, which is what you wanted. But in some ways, you get to kind of find out what your team's resolve is and who they are, right?
Yeah, you do get, and we have some good, natural leaders. Madoon Bowl is a natural leader, and we have a lot of guys who've been playing together for years from the feeder program. So they rally together. But they did dig deep. All of them don't like to lose. They don't expect to lose. But sometimes it takes a little prodding, like, hey, you guys think you're playing hard, but you're not really playing hard. Like, dig deep, get together, be a group, and go out there and get after it.
And they definitely got after it in the second half of that game. 58-44 was the final score. And John, for you, 2 games this past week, a win and a loss. Defeated Juanita rather easily by 21 points. I'm sure it was a little bit harder than it looks on paper here. And then you decided to go down the real easy path, right? Take on the defending state champions up in Linden Christian. You couldn't find an easier opponent to put on the schedule early in the year? Or what?
Well, I'll start first with Juanita. That was one of our 2 losses last year, so we kind of wanted to come back and play them again and prove maybe something went wrong last year. And our girls played well that game. We played great defense. And then I know the Linden Christian coach quite well, and I know what kind of atmosphere it is up there. So I wanted to take our team up there, experience that, and boy, they're a really good team. And we gave them a fight for a while, but they can pick apart your weaknesses. And we learned a lot about our team, but I think it helped us in the long run. So I was excited to go up there. If you have to lose, I think we got something out of that loss. So it's well, we'll move on from that and think about the next game coming up.
And all kidding aside, I mean, Linden Christian, year after year, they just produce great team after great team, and I'm sure that they're, if not the favorite to win the state championship. There are years where they're a 1A school, and they might be the best team in the state, period. Getting that experience in early in the season, not a bad way to get your feet wet and to get your girls ready for a tough Wesco league.
Exactly. I think it's going to help us out in the long run, like I said. But, Linden Christian winning the state championship last year, I bet you they're right there this year too. And they only graduated 1, and they got some D1 players on their roster. So it was a great atmosphere, a packed gym, and a small little town, small gym, but it was a neat experience for our girls. So
Indeed. So let's talk about the rosters here a little bit. I've got so much going on in front of me here. We'll start off with the boys team, Edmonds-Woodway. You definitely, Robert, bring back one of the better backcourts in the area. Talk a little bit about your guards that got themselves a little varsity experience this year and what we can expect in 2018, 2019.
Madoon and Chenadu. Yeah, they are. They're really good friends too. They really like playing against each other or playing with each other. But Chen is probably, I would say he's probably one of the more underrated players in the area. I don't think a lot of people know who Chenadu is. I've known Chen since he was in 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, because his brother was a freshman in high school, and everybody told me, you can't wait to see this kid. And he's a super athlete. I mean, he went to state and track as a sophomore, but he loves to play basketball. Great athlete. Madoon kind of goes without saying. I will say he is a great kid, and he works his butt off. He hates to lose, and he deserves like all the accolades that people are saying about him. The Eastern Washington coach was at the game. I think that's one of his offers he has right now on the table. But then you have Errol Richards, who played for us last year, who's stepping up big, and I'm really excited about 3 guys we got back who weren't there last year, and Ty Starchman. I'm gonna say Carson's name wrong. Scharchenberg. I'm going to say it wrong. But
Schartenberg, is that
Schartenberg. And Colin Whitney, Ty and Carson, especially, they have that experience of being in big situations,
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, those are a couple of Little League World Series names I seem to remember. So.
And I remember when they went to the Little League World Series, and I couldn't wait to get them. And the biggest thing was, it wasn't because of basketball talent; it was because of being in those kind of situations and not faltering, knowing how to be in big situations. I mean, you start that way when you're in 7th and 8th grade, and then you come to high school, and then you go to the Tacoma Dome, or not Tacoma Dome, but state at baseball, which is your first love. Then you're used to big situations. So happy to have those kids. And then we have Madoon's brother, Nuer, and that's exciting too. Super exciting for Madoon. He's excited to play with his brother, but super excited for us because he's a special athlete. He's going to be a special player.
So, and Nuer put up 11 points, I think, the other night as a sophomore, as if everybody in Wesco wasn't worried enough about going against one Bull. Now they've got the Bull brothers. How compare and contrast their games a little bit? Similar styles, or?
No. Madoon has a fast twitch muscle. He can change directions really fast. Nuer can change directions like that, but that's not what he does. A lot of players say Nuer does what Madoon does, except slower. Where Madoon has a great jump shot, Nuer has a decent jump shot, but Nuer gets to the rim really, really well, and he finishes really well with both hands. So that's kind of the contrast with the two. But if you see one, if I see Nuer from the back, I can't tell the difference. Nuer is already, he's a little bit taller than Madoon at this point, and he's a year, 2 years younger.
Oh.
So it's going to be very interesting to see those guys develop, but they're so excited to play together.
Yeah, Wesco beware right there. So it'll be fun to see what they do. And then on the girls program, a lot of names that we already know. You didn't have a single senior on your team last year, John.
No.
And you had a team that what was the regular season record last year?
18-2.
18-2 without a senior on your squad. Are we expecting big things again this year? I know you did have one loss during the offseason here. Talk about that and maybe what that means to your team first.
Sure, we lost one of our starters in the soccer season. Mia Dickinson tore ACL, and Mia wasn't a big scorer, but she's a big part of our. She was a starter. Started every game, and she was the glue and did all the little things. So not one person can pick it up. It's going to take a group of people to fill her shoes. And I think personally we're still trying to figure that out right now. But, yeah, we got everyone back from last year. Adrian Poling, first team All-League. I got A.J. Martineau running the club. She was second team All-League. Ingrid Fosberg, she was second team All-League. And gosh, Maddie McMahon does all the little things too inside as she plays post, but she's not really a post at 5, 9, 10, somewhere in there. So, I've got a lot of other role players and shooters, and it's quite a team effort. We have no real size, so we have to use our speed and press when we can and shoot. And it's neat having everyone back, so everyone knows the situations. I do have some underclassmen that are now up there filling out the roster too, but we're expecting big things this year.
And I think the conventional thinking around the league, more or less, going into the season was Edmonds-Woodway and Snohomish might be the two teams to beat, so to speak. Obviously, there are a few other teams that are in that mix as well, but really, the two of you are the names that seem to come out of everybody's mouth first. One of the big reasons for Snohomish was Kira Beckman, who was the best big player in the area. She goes down with a torn ACL, and now all of a sudden, everybody's kind of putting the target on Edmonds-Woodway's back. You're going to get everybody's best shot every night. You've been there before. You coached at Glacier Peak for a number of years too. Do you kind of like being in that position, or would you rather sneak up on people?
No, I'd rather be in the other spot. It's quite an honor to be up at that level. But a couple weeks ago I was interviewed, and I told the reporter I wanted to fly underneath the radar, and she says your team will not fly underneath the radar, and I think we did kind of last year. So. It's a tough situation because, like you say, I know we're going to get everyone's best game this year, and I've told the girls that, and that's why we went and played at Linden Christian on Friday night to see what you got to do to play to be the best. So it's going to be a tough season. There's a lot of good teams. I mean, we were the number 2 seed, and Linwood came out as the 7th seed, knocked us off. The year before, we were the 6th seed, knocked the 3 seed Shorewood out of it, So it's a very competitive league, and Ferndale's going to be tough this year. And I think there's it's an honor to be the listed as maybe one of the top teams, but you know, the Arlingtons and the Shorecrests and Stanwood, the defending 3A champs. There's a lot of good teams. So I don't think you'll have one or two teams pulling away like we did last year. And with Archbishop coming in and Cedar Crest on the girls' side, they're both two good programs. You know, Cedar Crest lost by 7 only to Snohomish the other night. So it's going to be a very competitive league. So it's going to take some depth and whatnot to get through it. So we'll see if you can get through it, and the districts could be really exciting.
Yeah,
so.
it definitely will be. And not too many nights off in this league this year is what you're saying.
Exactly.
And same for the boys for that matter, too.
There's never any nights off.
Hey, I was going to ask you guys, too. We were talking about it a little bit off camera, and we always joke with these two guys because if anybody could see them when the cameras aren't rolling, you two really have a hard time getting along, don't you? And I say that jokingly because these guys, one joke after another, these two guys are very good friends in the process, too. And we talked about that a little bit last week when we had the Linwood coaches in here. How much easier is it when you get along with the other coach because you do share a gym? And how much does it make the season go that much smoother when the two of you have the relationship that you do, Robert?
Oh, you want me to answer that?
Sure. Well, John's going to go in there in a second.
Hey, you know, it does make the season a lot easier.
Yeah.
I don't want to make John sound like he's old because he's not that old, but it is really great to have somebody to be able to bounce things off of. He's so mellow about him, where I can get high strung. He makes me feel like I'm making a mountain out of a molehill sometimes, and he can bring me back down to earth. Plus, I enjoy his girls are great. They're super athletes. There's like AJ, she's such a spark plug. They're great kids. So I love being around the gym when they're around the gym, and we both have the common goal. We were talking like we need to make our advance, hopefully, to Tacoma together. It would be great for the school. It would be great for our programs. But it's just kind of neat.
And I've got to thank you two, just from what I've gathered and getting to know you two together. You're not exactly two ships passing in the night when one's going off the floor and one's going on. I'm guessing there's a lot of conversation. Are there times when the players are like, "Coach, let's go, let's get over here. Stop talking to one another. We need to get to practicing." I mean, do we?
Yeah, we
could
talk a lot sometimes, I think, and you know, we have a good time passing in our 10, 15 minutes sometimes. But we do throw stuff off each other, and who do you got? Who you got? Oh, this is good. And it's good to talk to somebody. And Robert's a book of knowledge, and both programs really support each other. I mean, you watch the boys come into the gym, or on weekends the girls come into the gym after the boys practice, and they're neither team wants to get out of the gym first, and we got to kick our teams out so the other team can get in there. But they're good with each other, and it's exciting. So I think both teams have the goal to get to Tacoma, and if we can both support each other, that's a big key. And having Robert, I know getting to work around and with him, it makes my job way easier. And it's fun if I need to change a gym time or he does. We work so well together. It's like, yeah, go for it if that's what you need. So that's a big difference. I've been in other programs where it didn't quite work that way. So it's awesome to have that situation with us. So.
Yeah, there's just no ego. I mean, I'm sure that you have an ego as a coach. We all have egos as coaches, but we don't have egos with each other. It's all about how we're going to build our program. We're going to move these kids forward, help these kids move forward, and just build the program. And I'm not just saying the boys and the girls program, but the basketball program at Edmonds-Woodway.
It certainly has benefited the basketball community over there, that's for sure. Had a chance to talk to John about this a minute ago. You named off some of the teams in Wesco this year. Robert, kind of a similar question for you. Who are some of the teams that we're looking at this year when we start to try to predict what might happen in Wesco and how things might play out? I know there's a few teams that seem to get mentioned over and over again. And
I got like I was telling you before, I got a friend of mine up in Arlington, Nick. We talked about 2 years ago when his team, who was probably mainly seniors now, was mainly sophomores, and I was telling him, I was like, when those kids get it, they're going to be special.
Yeah.
And I really think they are. They're big, they're physical, they're very unselfish, they're great kids, but they play hard. And if you don't play hard against them, you're not going to get a win. And then you have Barry over at Maryville Pilchuck with Raekwon, of course, but with Dobler and a couple of kids the kids he has, they're great. Stanwood, obviously. I mean, do we have to talk about Stanwood?
year after year, right?
I mean, they're doing it the right way. Their kids compete. They play hard. And then you talk about our backyard. I mean, before we even go north of 128th, you start talking about Meadowdale, and you start talking about Shorecrest and Shorewood. Shorecrest having a new coach. You don't know what that culture is going to be like. Everybody gets excited when a new coach comes in. And so there's going to be a super excitement coming out of there. So it's going to be fun to play all the teams. And then Linwood has slowly made, I saw their interview, but they slowly made the climb from where they were to being a team that really there's no way you walk in that gym and not play hard. So there's nobody you don't get to play hard against. But I really think Pilchuck and Arlington and Stanwood have put themselves a little bit ahead of the pack.
So kind of the three names that we hear over and over again right now, definitely. And the fact that we're looking at a 15-team conference right now, and you only get to play everybody once. It's a little different than it used to be with divisions and a lot more scouting, a lot more work for you guys, quite frankly. I mean, when you're...
You know, one thing you haven't touched on is there's been a switch in the boys and girls games on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Wednesdays, yeah.
And, you know, I don't know how that transpired, but it's a big change for him and a big change for me because I've done this for 21 years and it's always been Wednesday games. So I had Monday and Tuesday to prepare. Now I don't. Now he has one day going into the Friday game on Thursday, and it's a new thing. So me and him have talked about that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you look ahead to the Friday game or you start scouting stuff. So that's something new in the league, too, that for the boys and girls they've got to get used to, you know, that it hasn't been like that. So
We should point that out, yeah. So historically, boys usually play Tuesdays and Fridays, girls Wednesdays and Fridays. We're flip-flopping that this year. And talking to Roger O'Neill last week on camera, he was kind of excited about it. I know everybody's got their own feelings about it.
are you excited?
No. It's going to be huge for us just because what we've done through the time I've been there, the way we play in that recovery day, losing that recovery day is really going to be huge. Playing on Wednesday, not playing on Tuesday, having Wednesday, Thursday to recover, but only having Thursday to recover is going to be a huge thing for my guys to get used to, getting their legs back under them on Thursday. It's going to be huge for me learning how to coach that way and not having that recovery day and really tailoring a practice plan more, have to scale things back so the guys can recover more, and also having guys not look forward to a Friday game. I mean, you can't look past a Wednesday game because you have Mountlake Terrace on Friday. You can't look past Oak Harbor on Wednesday. I mean, that's how you lose games. So that's going to be huge, a huge adjustment for everybody, I think.
So we will see. It's 15 league right now. Once through the system, round robin, we've got Tuesdays and Fridays and Wednesdays and Fridays flip-flopping. We've also got RPIs that we're playing to now, right? That's changed a little bit. We've played with the RPI system that meant something at the state level, and now is going to determine whether or not you make a district or whether or not you're having to go through a play-in game early in the district playoffs.
Right, it's your seeding now.
It's the seeding
it's
now,
gonna be
which-
your seeding into
Do you
how
like
the
that?
districts goes. I'll tell you when it comes out.
It changes your non-conference games, right? I mean, now all of a sudden
does.
those games mean something.
Yeah, and I gave us some pretty tough non-conference games, so we'll see if it works out for us. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's always been a little glitch with the Ferndales or the Squalicums coming into it, so hopefully this will help a little. But I still think there's a glitch in the system. I know on the girls' side, Ferndale's going to come down. I think the highest they can be is like a 3 seed, and they could be right up there, you know, an 18-2 or 19-1 team if they lose to Linden Christian. But they're a really good team, so it'll be interesting how it seeds out, you know, when it goes from there. So I'm not sure on the boys' side how it deals with up there, but
And I'm always, I mean, I want to see how it plays out. You don't want to jump on something and pile on something, say it doesn't work well when you haven't even seen how it works. But it will be interesting. I mean, win your games and see how it works. But to say, you know, like John was saying, Linden Christian being such a power year after year after year, even though they're a 1A school, what kind of credit do you get for that? Even though it's a loss, you travel to Linden Christian, you play probably one of the best teams in the state. 1A, do I get credit for doing that, or how does it work? So you don't want to pile onto it now because we haven't seen how it shakes out. I want to give everything a chance. You got to give the ideas a chance to develop, but that'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, win your games.
Yeah, ultimately the bottom line, and that's the number one
gotta
formula
win your
right there, right?
Yeah,
Win your games and get into the tournament. And final question, I won't put you on the spot for any numbers, but what are the expectations that you have for your teams this year? And maybe that's a tougher one for you, John, because like we mentioned, everybody's kind of putting Edmonds-Woodway at the top of the chart right now. I mean, is it a number? Is it a matter of getting to Tacoma?
it's not a number. I'll tell you that. I don't go through the schedule anymore and do that. I did that once and got burned, so I don't do that. But you know, I think it's the districts is a big thing, and it was a disappointing end to districts for us last year. We fought back, and we're in a loser-out game, and we didn't quite get there. But I want to think, our ultimate goal is to be in that championship game. And I know that's a lot of pressure, but, if that doesn't happen, it's to get to the dome or get up there, and it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy with all the pressure of, people looking at us and giving us their best. But if anyone can do it, I think these girls are ready. And hopefully by the end of the season, health could be a question. We're not sure. We've had some nagging little injuries just to start the season. And everything changes. I know through years past when I was at Glacier Peak, we had some bizarre injuries late in the season, and it just kills you. So you got to get through the season and then get through districts and, play it out from there. So we have high expectations, but we'll see how we do.
And Robert, what about you? Do you?
I wouldn't put a number on it either. I'm like John. We have goals. We go through goal setting with the guys. I always go through goal setting with the guys. And one of the interesting things is there's only 2 times you get to cut down nets, districts and states. And I've cut down nets one time in my career. It was fantastic, and I would love for the guys to have that experience. I mean, so you want to be in that district championship game. If you're in that game, then you want the chips to fall like they can. But it's a long way to go to that point. But that's a goal. And you love to go to Tacoma. I went to Tacoma as a player when I was young, and it was fantastic. So you want to have those guys that have that experience. But definitely cutting nets is not an experience that a lot of people get in their life. And I could say I got that one time in my life, and I remember it. So I want the guys to have that experience.
And I did lie. I'm going to ask one more question because we'd be remiss if we don't have you mention your assistant coaches. Speaking of Glacier Peak, one of your former players is a pretty darn good assistant on your bench, and I think you know her a little bit too.
Yeah, my daughter Natalie now is full-time with us. She came on halfway through the year, and she's a great support for me and a little coach from day one. So she's a volunteer assistant. I got Maddie Neely, an ex-player, referee, like I said last year, on my staff. Noah Wallace is my C-team coach in the building, does a great job, helps recruit kids out. And I got a new JV coach this year. I went back through the archives, and I had Nina Lowe. She was my JV coach at Shorecrest. And when she left me there, she went on and coached 5 or 6 years at Shorewood as her head coach. So I'm not going to say I conned her into it. I talked her into it nicely, and I couldn't be more excited to have her on staff. So I think that's really going to help us, in the overall, and she's learning the players, and I'm very excited to have her on the staff, and what a great staff I have. And I was going to say one thing about the goals and the nets. In my 21 years in West Coast South, I've watched all the girls' teams in the championship game except one, and that's Edmonds-Woodway. So that's kind of a goal. I've watched Terrace play in it. I've watched Meadowdale multiple times and Linwood. So there's one team missing, and that's why I'm here. So hopefully we can be us. So
finish that one out there for the Edmonds School District.
Exactly.
And then Robert, I'm guessing you're going to throw out a few familiar names for us here with your assistant coach.
Yeah, I have Nick Sherrill, I have Wayne Perilla, and then I have Michael Richards, and they've been with me since I walked in. I mean, Michael came 1 year at Linwood. He was the head coach, and then he came over, and they are the best. I mean, they all coach way more basketball than I do. Like I always say, I coach the high school season, but they coach the high school season. They coach feeder. They coach AAU. They coach all of those guys coach all year round. So as coaches, they're well prepared. They're better coaches than I am, and I'm glad to have them there. We've been together for a while, so we know each other. They can grab me. They can tell me things. Nick grabbed me. I was getting ready to call a timeout. Nick grabbed my hands. Like, we don't need a timeout right now. Like, you sure? We don't need a timeout right now. Like, we really have that. We have that kind of relationship that we've been doing it so long, and I value those guys so much and what they do and how they help. So it's fantastic. I love seeing those guys.
And I've got to wonder too, because one of my favorite Snohomish County coaches over the last few years, I think is going to be in the stands at a lot of your games this year too. Is we're going to hear Daryl McNeil from the Cascade days? Is he going to be helping you guys out? I know his son's playing for you this year.
I don't think Daryl's going to come down. And Daryl's me and Daryl, we're really good friends. I think Daryl wants to be a dad. And I want to give him the opportunity to be a dad. I don't want him, if he wants to be a dad for Nico, I want him to have the opportunity. And I didn't bring Nico up. Nico came over. They came over from Kings. Nico is a freak athlete. I mean, if you see the kid walk in the gym, you'll think somebody cut him out of a piece of granite. I mean, he's just a freak-looking athlete. And to get him, we're getting him up to speed to what we're doing. But I think once he's full speed ahead and understands everything we're doing, I think you're going to see something special out of him. I can't believe I didn't say his name.
That's what we're here for. We're getting him in.
And Daryl, and I think Daryl is really just going to enjoy being a dad, being a parent, not having to really make those decisions and just sit back and watch.
Sure.
And critique the coach, like people critique him. So I'm sure he's going to have fun doing
Parents
it.
don't do that, do they? So we talked about the players, we talked about the coaches. Now it's time to play some basketball. And again, two programs that I think we're all very excited about around here. You both have done a fantastic job, and cannot wait to see how the Warriors do this season. So John, Robert, thank you as always, and best of luck to you guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's great to be here.
Yes, it is.
I really enjoy watching you interview those two guys. They are so much fun.
They are a lot of fun. I mean, I think we have more fun off camera before we even start
Yeah.
rolling. The two of them, again, they genuinely like each other. They enjoy being around each other, and just the camaraderie that's there, and the chemistry. It's fun. You can see where I think Edmonds-Woodway practices as one is wrapping up and the other one's getting ready to start would be an interesting time and a fun time to be around the gym over there.
Yeah, and we've got some teams that have started play, other teams. What else is going on?
I think we'll mention some of the boys' stuff in this particular segment. A couple of other teams picking up wins this week. Meadowdale defeating Squalicum the other night. Colton Walsh had 24 points in that game. Mountlake Terrace also is 1-0 on their season. They defeated the same team, Squalicum. Sorry, Storm. I guess you kind of came into a storm of your own here in the Edmonds School District as Terrace picked up their first victory of the year. And I wanted to throw out a couple of game notes while we're at it in terms of some of the schedules for this coming week in case anybody wants to get out and watch any of these teams play. On the boys' side of things, and we wrote down the home games here for you, Mountlake Terrace will be hosting Monroe on Wednesday night. Linwood plays at home twice this week. They're going to play at home against Mariner on Wednesday and Inglemore on Friday. And while I'm at it, we should mention Inglemore and Linwood. That's a doubleheader, boys and girls. So you can go on over to the Linwood gym on Friday night starting at 5:30, watch the girls, and then stick around and watch the boys. Meadowdale will host Jackson on Friday. And Edmonds-Woodway, they actually don't have a home game, but since we just had Coach on, I wanted to at least get these games in here. Back-to-backs this week, Thursday and Friday. They play at Woodinville and at Kamiak. The reason for the back-to-back is that Woodinville made it all the way to the state semifinals in football this season, so they had requested that game get bumped back to a later date, and therefore Edmonds-Woodway being nice enough to accommodate them, they get to play on back-to-back road nights this week. So a little bit of a tough go for the Warriors, but we certainly hope folks get out to support the team. Not too far away. Woodinville, Kamiak,
Yeah,
short drive, so get on out there, support them, and support these other teams while they're at home this week too.
that's right. And now we're going to talk to a coach that I already have a lot of admiration for, right? Girls coach?
Yeah, Mike Jones over at Mountlake Terrace. Mountlake Terrace gets a new coach again on the girls' side of things. I have a feeling this one might be a little bit different, though. We're hoping he sticks around for a while. And we had a great interview with Mike to talk about not only his background, but also his vision for the Mountlake Terrace girls basketball team. Here's the interview we did with Mike Jones, the new basketball coach for the Mountlake Terrace Hawks girls basketball team. In keeping with our basketball previews, we're going to talk a little Mountlake Terrace girls basketball right now with first-year head coach Mike Jones. Mike, my first question for you is the first question I asked about 2 weeks ago when I was talking Mountlake Terrace basketball with somebody else. Who's Mike Jones? Give me your background a little bit. Where do you come from, and how did you end up at Mountlake Terrace High School?
Well, I've actually been around the Wesco League for quite a few years. I graduated from Cascade in '96. Actually won Herald Player of the Year awards. Went on, played at Edmonds Community College for 2 years. Then left and went up to Fairbanks, Alaska. Spent some time up there. Followed that up with a little bit of a hiatus from basketball for a while, and then got to play a little bit of pro ball locally out of the Everett, Monroe area. And then realized that body and age was catching up with me, and decided to start coaching. And got my start at Linwood High School, doing some C-team. Realized I really want to kind of run my own program. So for the last 4 years, I've been running the boys and girls programs at Briar Terrace Middle School, which ironically feeds the high school. So I've been, all the boys and girls within the program, I've actually coached them through middle school. And just kind of made the decision that if the job opened up for the girls program, watching the turnover they've had recently, that I was going to do my best to take over that program, because I've watched those girls. I've had a passion for those girls over the years, and I want them to have some stability and have somebody they can work behind and drive behind, and really that's the story in the long and short.
Well, and you stole my next question, because it was going to be, are you planning on staying there a while? This is a program that it feels as though every 1 or 2 years they're going to a new coach. Some of these girls now playing for their third or fourth coach. In terms of the Mountlake Terrace job, and obviously Briar Terrace with your background there, this isn't the most appealing job to a lot of folks. Traditionally and historically, the girls program at Mountlake Terrace has not been very successful in terms of wins and losses. What was it about this particular job that maybe had you thinking, you know what, I'd like to give that one a shot, as opposed to maybe some of the other jobs that might have been out there?
The number one reason is the girls in the program. I built relationships with these girls, and watched a lot of the seniors and juniors go through those struggles and go through the hurt of losses and coach change, and I wanted to do right by them. The other part is I've always had a passion for wanting to be a varsity coach. I really enjoy coaching girls basketball. I think that there's a lot of drive for girls players. I think there's in a lot of areas a lack of respect for girls basketball players, and I want to bring a name to that program. And I've watched a lot of great coaches over the years, both in the boys and girls, between coaches I've played for and coaches I've watched. And I want to do that. I want to build a program from the bottom, which they are, and build them towards some success and some pride.
So maybe a 30-second elevator speech here. What kind of a coach are you? What is your mentality like on the floor? Are you a player's coach? Are you somebody who takes a player aside and kind of works one-on-one? Are you a yeller? What do we see out of Mike Jones if we're going to Mountlake Terrace game?
I would say the first thing you'll see is somebody with a lot of passion just for the game in general. I don't sit down when I coach. I'm up and down the sideline, and I'm cheering along with the players. I feel that I'm a player coach. I care for my players. I want the best for them. But I'm not afraid to push them, and I will push them to do the best that they can, whatever their 100% is. I tell them that all the time. Whatever your 100% is, give me that.
And as far as your other coaches, who have you brought onto the staff with you this year?
So number one is our JV coach, Andrew Young. He was the C-team coach last year, and I moved him up. I had some good conversations with him last year, talked to him a little bit going into this season, and he's got that same kind of energy, really, really good passion, wanting to learn the game, and I figured he would be a good fit to move up with the girls that he coached last year. And then Sarah, we call her Sarah VW because she's got a really long last name. She's our C-team coach. She was hoping to just be a varsity assistant, not a ton of coaching experience, but a lot of athletics experience between basketball and volleyball. She also works in building, which is a great help. Mm-hmm. But we put her out there with the C-teamers, and they've been really having a great time out there with her, and she's learning a lot along with them. And then I have one volunteer assistant, which was actually our JV coach from last year, Stacy Milton. And she just wanted to be involved in the program. She really wanted to stay involved. So she's been a great help to come and help Sarah, especially back on C-team, learn the coaching game while I'm trying to figure out how to be a varsity coach.
Yeah, definitely. And from what I've heard, it sounds like the numbers are pretty good right now. This is a program that 2 or 3 years ago was having trouble just getting a JV team together, let alone a JV and a C team. You've got a full roster right now. That's got to feel pretty good.
Well, and I take a little bit of credit for that. Obviously, working at the middle school, I know I have the contacts for parents and players already, so I reached out to a lot of them, got them all out there. We got, I think, 38 girls in the program right now, which is great. A lot of sophomores, a lot of freshmen. Unfortunately, those junior and senior classes decided to go to Woodway when they went to high school, so I'll get to see them soon. But yeah, we got a young program, but a lot of girls.
And as I look at this roster here, varsity roster in particular, a lot of good balance here. You've got a handful of seniors. It looks like you have 4 seniors on the team, 5 juniors, I believe, and then a few freshmen or a sophomore sprinkled in there too. Kind of nice to know you can kind of build on that over the next few years and not just lose everybody all in one big swoop either.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it's really nice. I mean, I've got not just a mix of grades, but I've also got a mix of varsity experience and playing experience, which is really nice because they really build off each other and they drive off of each other.
So tell me a little bit about some of your key players. Who are we watching if we go to a Mountlake Terrace game this year?
Well, obviously, number one will be Trinity Prout. She's our senior. She's a 4-year letter, varsity player, one of our co-captains, and she really drives this team. She has kind of taken a backseat or a sidekick role her first 3 years in the program, and I've put the ball in her hands and put the expectations on her to really drive this team this year, and she's loving it. Every second of it, she's just loving being in the gym and having the ball in her hands a lot. Lydia Pre Low is another senior, and she's the co-captain. And you watch her when she is ready to go. She's just an athlete, and she just wants to push. She wants to drive hard. She's the one player I have right now that really wants to go on and play in college next year. So we're working on that with her. So that'll be exciting. That's kind of our senior talent. And then the other big one that I think people will get a good eye on is Kiara Scott, who this is her 3rd year on varsity. She played as a freshman. She was on the 14-player roster team as a freshman. But we're unleashing her in the guard position. She's a very good on-ball defender, and you're going to see a lot of aggressive defense out of her. And that's kind of her MO. She hasn't been able to do that much the last 2 years, and we're gonna let her free a little bit this year.
So when we're watching Kiara and Lydia and Trinity and some of the other players, what are the expectations for this team this year? Do you put a number on wins, or is it just a matter of showing improvement? Obviously, a team that, like you said earlier, hasn't had a lot of wins and losses success. What does a successful Mountlake Terrace season look like this year?
Biggest thing is I just don't want these girls to quit. I want them to keep pushing hard through every single game. Don't allow runs by another team. Don't allow 2 or 3 losses in a row. Change the fact that you love this game and you want to be out here pushing hard for this game. So that's our biggest number one thing. Come out every game, make the other team have to fight and earn whatever they get. Me personally, I would love to see us surpass the 3 wins from last year and get to 4 this year. The quicker we can get that, the quicker we can start working on number 5, 6, and 7 and going from there. But ultimately, the wins and losses aren't the top priority for us. It's building this program. It's building the love of this program for the girls, getting the crowds out there to see how exciting it is for these girls to go out there and do what they love.
And are you starting to see the improvement already just over the first 3 weeks?
Oh, definitely. Especially at the sub-varsity levels, the JV and C teams. Those girls are really starting to pick up their play a little bit, and it looks great for the future. The varsity players, we're just trying to get everything in sync, especially with the lack of varsity experience within the program, especially on our bench. But after the first game, practices get a lot better, and we start realizing what we need to do.
Right, and as you mentioned a minute ago, it's nice if we can get some people out to these games. We have the schedule right here. I know tough loss against Seaholm to start the season, your only game so far. You hit the road this week, but you don't have to go very far,
No.
right? Going up to Cascade to play on Tuesday night, so hop, skip, and a jump. We expect to see some people up there. And then you've got a home game against Mariner on Thursday night, and then you have a home game next Wednesday against Bellingham. So certainly a lot of opportunities for people to see this team. And Mariner and Cascade, maybe 2 other teams that are kind of still trying to find their way a little bit too. So certainly if people want to see competitive games and maybe a chance for the Hawks to maybe get some of those wins you were talking about, like to see some people out at those games, I would think.
Oh, definitely. And we definitely try and get it out there and promoting it. Got the girls all wearing their team gear around school. Like I said, Coach Sarah, our C team coach, she's in building. She is a great promoter for our program. She's out there at lunches and on announcements, really promoting this game. We've got some managers that have big voices around school, and we had a really good crowd out for our first game, and I don't think we disappointed as far as the effort and the excitement. So hopefully we'll get to see them out there at these next couple home games.
And I can attest after seeing them play at Jam Session, which was the inter-squad game last week, a team that will definitely give it their all every night, if nothing else. So, Mike, again, congratulations on getting this job. It sounds to me like the program's in pretty good hands, and we wish you nothing but success this season.
Thank you very much.
The Terrace girls deserve a coach that cares about them, and it sounds like he's going to stick with it and build the program, which is great.
I hope so. I'm just in the short time that we've been covering Mountlake Terrace here for the last few years, it just feels like that's just been a constant revolving door, and that program definitely deserves a little stability, and I think Mike might be the right person for the job. He certainly is doing it for the right reasons, and I think that's exactly what and who they needed at this time. So we're keeping our fingers crossed for that, and also for them to have a successful season. And again, that may not necessarily mean wins and losses. It might just be a matter of improvement. But at the very least, I think they've got a nurturing coach who's going to work very well with them.
Right. I think just building the enthusiasm for the program internally in the building, which you pointed out, that's a huge
It's-
change.
We don't talk about it enough when you talk in terms of how successful a team is on the court. Again, we always kind of go back to wins, losses, how far did you make it in the playoffs. But in reality, when you start to look at a Mountlake Terrace program, and again, we mentioned it in the interview a few years ago, they had trouble getting enough girls out to have a JV team. I mean, it's not completely uncommon for schools maybe to not have a C team sometimes. They didn't have a JV team. Mike's got numbers right now. He had, I forget how many girls turned out this year, but it was a substantial amount. And I think, and he's right, I think it goes a long ways to say what he brings to the table here. The fact that so many of them know him from their time at Briar Terrace, getting them encouraged and getting them fired up to want to play for him and to play for the school now, that's something that Mountlake Terrace hasn't had in a while. So I think getting Mike in there and getting him out on the court there at Mountlake Terrace High School, that could be a huge lift for them. And we'd like to certainly see if they can maybe elevate their game and perhaps get into that next level at Wesco, and where we've seen Edmonds-Woodway over time, and certainly Linwood over the last decade, and where Meadowdale's been in the past. It'd be nice to see if we can get that stability at Mountlake Terrace.
Yeah, they certainly deserve it. All right, well, and Edmonds-Woodway has a big game coming up, the girls.
They do, and we'll mention some of the other girls' notes that are coming up. Edmonds-Woodway, since we just got done talking to Coach a few minutes ago, they're going to be hosting Lake Stevens on Friday night. Other games coming up this week, and again, these are primarily the games that are at Edmonds School District schools, although I did throw in one that's a pretty big game coming up this week. The games locally are going to be Monroe at Meadowdale on Tuesday night. Mariner will be at Mountlake Terrace on Thursday. And as we already mentioned in the last segment, Linwood is hosting Inglemore for the boys and the girls. One other game that I did want to throw in here, Linwood is going to be over at Jackson High School on Tuesday night. That game will be on stspn.com. Jackson, I think, in a lot of people's mind, might be the team to beat in Wesco 4A this year. Linwood's off to a great start so far, so it could be a real nice barometer to find out where Linwood is right now and who they are. And oh, by the way, speaking of Linwood, 2-0 to start their season off. They beat Kamiak the other night by 20 points, defeated Bothell by 1. And in those two games, one particular player really stood out, and it's a name we've talked about before, Amaya Kirkman, now a junior, and her junior season is off to a very strong start. 34 points against Kamiak, 27 against Bothell, and again, they only won by 1. They needed all 27 of those points. So Maya, for your efforts, you are the Action Jackson Plumbing Player of the Week. And again, the Linwood Royals with a big match coming up on Tuesday, and certainly like to see folks get over to Mill Creek to support that team, and if not, stspn.com, our friends over there will be broadcasting it.
Yeah, well, we're in the thick of it, and enjoy those basketball games because they are a lot of fun. If you haven't been to a high school game, you're missing something. So, all right, and we still got swimming to talk about.
We have swimming. We have no results yet because they haven't started yet.
Right.
But that's going to change this week. On Tuesday, all 4 of our teams are going to have their first meet of the year. Meadowdale, Linwood, and Jackson will be going against one another over at the Linwood Pool on Tuesday. And then meanwhile, Edmonds-Woodway, Mountlake Terrace, and Shorecrest will all be over at the Shoreline Pool on the same day. So best of luck to all 4 of our boys swimming programs this year as they get things started this coming week.
Yes, they do. Well, and we want to also make sure we thank our sponsor, Red Onion Burgers, for always supporting the program. And we will see you all next week.
Take care.